Welcome, children of Luvatar, to Echoes of Tolkien. I'm Ryan.
I'm Derek.
I'm Colton.
And I'm Logan.
All right, today we're going to talk about the race of men in Middle-earth and ranking some of our favorites itself. We'll start over with Derek.
Well, ranking our favorites or ranking the greatest? I don't know how you guys prepared it.
Well, I kind of prepared mine to be like talking about the greatness and the cool ones in Middle-earth. And ranking's a little bit hard, but I'm going to kind of like go over like my aspects of what I like about them.
Ranking is kind of hard. It can add some controversy, which is kind of what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Do we want to all go through start with our fifth and go down to one, or you just want me to go name my five and then discuss them?
Really, I think it's kind of open discussion in regards to like who we like and who not. I mean, like I said, the ranking part's hard. I couldn't tell you this is my number 5, really. I mean, I do have my rank, but I'm kind of like, I kind of want to hear what your guys' perspective are on, and it'll probably change my ranking a little bit.
Okay, so why don't we do this? I'll start. I'll go my 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then you guys can do yours, and then we can discuss why maybe I did mine the way I did.
Sure, if that's what you want to do, that works.
All right, so I was kind of going for ranking based upon greatness, which in and of itself is controversial, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But number 5, Tuor. I really want to see you guys' lists. Number 4, I have Elendil. Number 3, I have Torumbar. Number 2, I have Hurin, his father. And what I am assuming everybody's number 1 is Aragorn.
Okay, so actually a few of ours is pretty much similar. I actually do have Éomer on here.
No, wrong.
and it's actually just from a warrior aspect in the Third Age, because to be honest with you, the greatest warriors, in my opinion, are like more First and Second Age. Third Age doesn't have best warriors, but I did feel like we need an honorable mention there.
I don't hate Éomer on the list.
I do have some honorable mentions. Then we can talk.
Oh yeah, of course. Helm Hammerhand I have on here, but hear me out. It is definitely because we just watched Ortho Hiram, and because I do think like his character is badass. I do have Turin on here, Hurin, and of course number 1 is Aragorn. But again, my list doesn't really stop there because I like Elendil a lot, and I actually would probably put him under Hurin over and Turin under him for my list.
Okay.
So, mine, I go Hurin at 5. I have Elendil at 4. Aragorn at 3.
Wow.
Tuor at 2. And I have Baron at number 1.
Wow. Okay, that is quite the hot list.
That is.
Well, all right, Logan, where are we at?
I don't have a list prepared.
Hey, well, what are some that you
So, actually, due to the Rings of Power show, which I know we have differing opinions on, Elendil is like one of my absolute favorite characters right now. I would say Aragorn is still number 1 for me. I think he's always going to be number 1 for me. But Elendil is kind of a close second for me right now. I think he's a really cool character. And yeah, the Rings of Power show has a lot to do with that. I do also very much like Éomer, so I think he's just really...
I love Éomer's character.
I think he was
I just don't think he makes top 5 greatest of all time, men in Middle Earth.
Well, so he doesn't do much in reality, but like I do feel like honorable mentions needed.
For sure.
And I actually want to jump into Baron. So he is on my list, but top 5, and his love story to me, if we're going in, the hard part about ranking is everyone has like strength, warrior, heart. Mm-hmm. Baron's love story is good for heart, but as for warrior,
mine is not like the greatest that ever was. Like, there's a lot of like favoritism of like who do I think is kind of like the cool. Like it's not very much.
Okay.
Like, this is the most powerful. This is the like. My list is not that.
Okay, well, mine is. Yours was Aragorn. Yours was Aragorn too.
I will, and we can also explain that a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, my number 1 was Aragorn as well, but Colton's was Baron.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we should make a case for Aragorn. Do we need to make a case?
So we do actually need to make a case, because it was even hard for me, and I feel like it's really cliche to pick Aragorn because it's the most character development that we have. And the reason why I picked Aragorn, though, ultimately is because obviously his directly going after Sauron here, at the last stages of the Third Age, and really challenging that, and pretty much knowing that you're leading all these people to die. I mean,
I think I back it all up. He's raised amongst the elves, So he's growing up with the knowledge, this elvish lore that that he learned. He lived a life in the wilderness as a ranger, extremely skilled in that craft, tracking, hunting, killing. He's a great fighter. He's also just naturally a good leader of men. I don't think anybody's going to question his bravery. The fact that he takes up the Palantir and calls out Sauron is nuts for anybody in Middle-earth to be like, you know what?
I actually want to talk about that a little bit because that's where I don't think Denethor gets the credit that he should. And we might brought this on another podcast, and is Denethor also had a Palantir and would directly be able to, I don't want to say outflank or not become susceptible to Sauron's power in it. So Denethor also had direct communication.
Did kind of become susceptible to Sauron's power.
At the end there, but in reality, like, he's had that thing his whole rule, and he did keep Gondor safe for his entire stewardship until obviously the end there.
That's a questionable safe.
Yeah.
well, in reality, like, Gondor didn't fall under the building of the armies until the end there, where yes,
but he benefited from the fact that like Sauron was still trying to regain power, and his armies were never ready to.
Like, it's not like Sauron was having a huge push on Gondor the whole time Denethor was.
No, but there were still orcs there, and they were still trying to attack. Now,
Like
it was more so out, not in Gondor itself, like, not because they wouldn't be able to take down the fortress of Gondor. But I do think for power of mind, Denethor doesn't get as much credit as he deserves versus what the movies portray.
That is fair.
Okay.
That is fair.
I'm not saying he's in the top 5 at all.
No.
It's more so, though.
I mean, Denethor,
Yeah.
he's not a fool. He wasn't a fool.
Yeah.
He was a wise dude. I'll concede that. But Aragorn, so, he rallies the men at Helm's Deep. He brings back the Oathbreakers. He took up the King's Sword. He took up his throne, essentially. Leads this broken group of men from the Rohirrim, or from Rohan, Gondor, whoever was survived. They put a fool in front of Assault on the Black Gates, to take on Sauron himself. So, and then once he becomes king again, King Elisar, like, he just
he ruled and kept peace. I am curious now. The Army of the Undead at Pelennor Fields. Could you imagine if, like,
I mean, they weren't.
Well,
so in the movies they were at Pelennor.
So yeah, but I'm saying, okay, so we can do that, but I'm like, they weren't at the War at the Black Gate because he was released at that time. I feel like just a plot hole here is if they would have used them in Mordor and just like go in there and clean it.
Yeah,
up.
but then he wouldn't have been keeping his part of the oath.
I agree. So we can say, okay, then a man of integrity
Because,
is
like,
another reason why we can add him up there. However, I was saying plot hole for the story.
Integrity, yeah, but like oaths in Middle Earth are like, they're like blood contracts, kind of.
Speaking of oaths, can we do a dishonorable mention? I do have a dishonorable mention. Theoden. Okay? A dishonorable mention is Theoden.
Theoden's not as bad as you say.
Yes, he is. I am not going to lie. I don't like Theoden. I do have like...
Theoden was like a decorated warrior.
Okay, well, he kind of lost his integrity. He didn't want to hold oath. Where was Gondor? A whiny little baby doesn't lead. Aragorn is the only reason why anyone survived, because Aragorn took leadership. And
and this is why he's not number 1 for me. Is really, so he played a huge part at Helm's Deep, but he wasn't like full blown leading the charge at Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
There at Pelennor Fields, especially in the books, he definitely plays a much larger. The books put him higher than the movies. In the books, in the movies, he brings the Army of the Undead and they kind of do whatever for him. In the books, him and Éomer, and this is why I don't hate your adding Éomer in there. Like, him and Éomer are like the front line. They are like the two guys out there like destroying it.
Yeah.
Okay, so before my ADHD takes us too far off the tracks here, this is I'm gonna guess that this is kind of a hot take here. I love Theoden's speech at Pelennor Fields to his men more than I like Aragorn's speech at the Black Gates.
Yeah.
Okay, good speech.
Oh, yeah?
Theoden's speech is like top 5 speeches like
Are you
of
talking
all
about
time.
movie speech, or is that directly from the book?
Movie speech.
Okay, movie speech. Okay,
Like
cool.
the scene in...
Great writers, shit character.
Man, he is not that bad.
No, he's not that.
That's fine. I will still speak my opinion on Theoden. Dishonorable mention.
You just have this gay crush for Aragorn.
That's what it really is. That poster
And
was
it's fair.
on my wall growing up.
But and like to add to like, and again, Aragorn's still in my top 5 greatest men of all time. But like, so his push on the Black Gates wasn't of, hey, we're gonna go take the Black Gates, we're gonna go defeat Sauron. Like, he was going
A diversion.
as a diversion. Like, essentially, he was leading a suicide mission. Hoping to
that's
give Frodo enough time.
pretty ballsy.
It's pretty brave and ballsy, and
That's courage.
Noble.
He's not the only one on these lists.
One would almost say great.
Well, so I agree with that. There's actually a lot of people who do things like that, but I'll say this: like, that is actually why I put him at top of the list, because he did go in for a suicide mission where it's like, this is our last ditch effort, and I'm going to die for this. Because him of all people could have honestly probably hidden away somewhere and lived out his long life and died by hiding, but no way live. I'm saying, like, it was actually, that's what made me put him on top of the list, was the fact that he led this charge, which was supposed to be their end.
So, all right, we kind of built up Aragorn a little bit there. I want to see, like, why is Baron... Because I have Baron in my honorable mentions, but I do not have him in my top 5.
I mean, for me, and the whole thing, why I have him, like, literally goes in and takes a Cimmerel off of Morgoth's crown.
That's where I thought you were going to go with that.
But
and
then,
I counter with...
he got his hand bit off.
It was Luthien.
yeah. I mean, all right, don't get me wrong. Baron's an awesome character.
He is an awesome character. And it was for love, and it was supposed to be an impossible mission. So that is why...
But, like, the only way he was able
to
to get that close and to steal Cimmerel is because Luthien...
Yeah.
Yeah, he
But
couldn't sleep.
still, I mean, the only reason Aragorn got that far is because of the people around him.
I mean, that's true.
I mean, everything, it's all...
I mean...
all these, like, no one of these characters was able to do one thing, like, on their own. They all had help, but it's,
So, and I do have Baron on there too, because one thing I did find cool about Baron was his relationship with animals and wildlife. I thought it was cool that they would actually help him in some of his quests, like throughout his life. I find that fascinating and really cool lore that deviates from most men. Like, that's not a relationship that a lot of men have with, I'll say the nature and things. So, cool little skill.
Then one of 3 elven man relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I think that his is the one that kind of broke the barrier.
This is the first.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one that kind of broke the barrier and actually bridged that gap between the two. So, I mean, that's why, again, my list
Love
is
is
not
love.
Yeah, my list is not like a hard 5 ranking. That's why Baron's on my list. My list is like 10 people.
Mine, I mean,
Yeah.
mine's not a
And
perfect list
my
either.
like, rankings aren't like, this is where they're at. I mean...
But mine is.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm just kidding. I had Turin... No, I had Huron at number 2. Who did you have?
I had Hearn as well. So Hearn, I think, was a really good warrior, and I also think his integrity of keeping the secret of Gondolin was really good, which obviously created the...
Until he didn't keep the
Yeah,
secret.
until he kind of gets away.
But anyway, but then had the curse from Morgoth.
Yeah,
And-
that's where I really put a lot of
Respect.
respect. Like 28 years of torture, and
I think
the
that's
fact
what you get
that
in is he had
the
all these
fact
years of torture
that
and
he
didn't give it up in
Yeah,
torture.
you see, yeah.
But I think like the fact that he was under Morgoth's skin so much that instead of just killing this guy, he had to chain him up and torment him because he's like, he had to get his own retribution. Yeah, Huron as a fighter was just a monster.
Yeah.
Like his double-headed axe like melts under the heat of the blood that he
Well,
killed.
that, and
so
also
many
he was
trolls.
buried in his enemies' bodies essentially because he was fighting so hard. And I find, like I said, that's why Hearn's my number 2, because he's probably the best warrior of man, I'd say. That
I mean, he was a really respectable king and leader too.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool while being basically tormented. He's just like laughing in the face of Morgoth,
yeah,
like
it's pretty bad.
the Dark Lord. That's pretty cool.
I kind of want to talk about Turn a little bit though, if you want to jump in.
Yeah.
So Turn. So here's the thing about Turn is good
So,
warrior.
Who,
right-
wait, who was
oh,
your number 2?
Tor.
Oh
Tur-
wow, you
I-
had him at 4.
I have Turin in my. He is in my honorable mentions. He would be my essential.
Turns are
6.
honorable mention.
Yeah.
He was an arrogant ass. So
I mean,
I wouldn't say arrogant. So much. Okay, we're never. Are
we'll
we
jump
going to
into
Torin?
him.
Or are
Okay,
we going to Torin?
well, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I have Tor as my number 2. Just the stuff he did in Gondolin was like pretty awesome.
I mean, he killed a Balrog himself.
Yeah, he got Balrog himself. He
What-
fought a fire drake. Didn't kill a fire drake, like got it to surround. I mean, that's
One of the Valar themselves, Olmo, presented themselves to him, gave him the quest.
give him the cloak.
And then he is like the only man, I believe, that was welcomed into Valinor. I also think
Give him the promise.
his scene is sick. So when Gondolin's falling and Meglin is like turned on the elves and he's got Eärendil. He's trying to kill him, and Tuor just like cleans his clock and throws him from the top of the walls, and he like smacks the side of the mountain like 3 or 4 times and to his death. I don't know, just kind of BA. Yeah. Maybe that's just like as a parent, it's just like I want to clean someone's clock like that when they're trying. And
that's where like my list doesn't necessarily like the best, the most powerful. It's kind of like the coolest to me. It's like the coolest moments.
Yeah.
Greatest hits.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, and then I know we were on a turn a little bit there because I'm curious on your thoughts on him then, because I call him, he's kind of like an arrogant fighter. Like he
you had Turin as what?
He's my number 3.
He is my number 3 too. I am also willing to be persuaded.
So the reason I knocked him down, and it's not his fault, but like his curse. So like there's a lot of things that happen in his life that like take away from.
He lived his entire life under Morgoth's curse and was still able to accomplish what he
broke it down the road a little bit. Or
his death kind of broke it.
He claims he broke it
because his death ends the line of Hurin.
His death breaks his sister's curse, and she realized that it was
oh, that is
banging his sister.
Dude, okay, that's the best thing. So and then she kills herself out of shame.
No, she kills herself more because she thinks he's dead.
Well,
she realized what it all was.
What happened
after Glaurung's dead. It like breaks her.
And then he kills himself
because he wakes up and realizes what all had happened.
When he's like,
he doesn't kill himself right then though.
Not right then. No, he actually killed a man who brought it up to him, and he killed him because he's like, that's not true.
He's like, blasphemer.
And then he got it confirmed, and then he's like, oh crap,
what have I done?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, she was pregnant.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I knew that.
Yeah, she was pregnant with his firstborn.
I mean, didn't he find her like?
I think
first off, I think he found her naked on a grave. Didn't you know? I mean, at that point, I'd be like, I'm marrying this girl.
Hello, Miss Lady.
Yeah, it's like, how's it get better than this? Well, it gets worse.
She's
when it's
naked and beautiful, and he gives her a new name.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the mall and find someone hot and be like, you know what? You're Deborah.
Well, at that point, she didn't recall who she was, so she gave.
That's true. That's true.
Her a name. He didn't just like rename her. Yeah. She didn't really have a name.
That's
she couldn't
true.
Remember, so he gave her a name.
Deborah's still out there waiting for me.
Yeah.
Well, he kills his best friend because he thought it was an orc trying to like untie. Like it's all part of like the curse, but it's kind of like
but like
knocked him down a peg for me.
I just think I have a lot more respect for him.
Everything
he did, everything
for me was. I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. Is like when you kill a dragon, it's Glaroom. Is that how you say? Glaurung. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but it wasn't a flying dragon.
No, but most of them.
It was the first dragon, though. It was a great dragon.
And
it was a great dragon.
What's interesting, though, I found about that is how the blood was, I guess, not safe and knocked him out. So it's actually interesting that where even dragon blood in the stories, it's thought like, oh, this will make you pass out. Like that's what's fascinating to me about it as well.
Now, and one thing I do wish I had him a little higher after like so it turned out part of the curse is he was blind, so everything he was doing was while blind.
I, to be honest with you, did not know he was blind, and now I feel like he should move up on my list if that's the fact.
He claimed to be blind.
Okay, well,
I don't know. Now I'm kind of thinking I should have put Tuor at 3 and Turin at 5.
I like how Turin moved down on your list.
So initially, when I started making my list, I had Turin at 2. But then I swapped him because I do think his dad was a greater man than Turin was. But I don't know. Like, Tuor just has so many like phenomenal feats,
and that's where I rank mine based off of like, all right, that was pretty sweet. So that's why I had him up at my 2.
It's just the thing with like the Lord of the Rings characters. So there's so many amazing heroes, of all different forms. Especially once we get to the elves, that'll be controversial too.
Yeah,
but it's hard to pick. So, where was Elendil on your guys' list?
Logan, you had him pretty high up on yours.
He's a close second for me. Yeah.
Do you have any good like hot takes on Aragorn or Elendil on what?
No, keep going.
So I had Elendil as my 4 below Aragorn.
Yeah, and Elendil was my 4. Was he on your list?
He's on my list, and to be honest with you, after 3, it's just a moving system.
Yeah,
it's a moving system. So,
like, my reason I had Aragorn above him because Aragorn kind of reinstated everything Elendil did. Elendil came over, he created Arnor, and Gondor. I mean, his son's more or less ran Gondor.
Yeah.
You know, him and Gil-galad.
Yes, but he was the High King.
Well, they let that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I think that's you
Yeah.
just kind of get at it. Even though it was with Gil-galad, the fact that he
led
took
on
on Amaya,
Sauron's story,
Sauron, a Dark Lord,
And
and
not-
won.
Yeah.
And you bridge that gap. I mean, being a Numenorian, you're automatically going to kind of have that gap bridged a little bit. But like, you are creating a band of man and elves, and you're going to what would essentially be the final battle again. I mean, any battle you go into, there's a chance of
The
complete defeat.
Dagga lad.
Yeah. And essentially, him and Gil-galad fighting Sauron himself and taking down Sauron. And it is amazing, actually. And I think it's crazy with both men and elves. We won't get into elves on this pod. We'll get into that in the next one. But how many people die in their battle against defeating what they're defeating? Like, both are just dead. It's just funny by happenstance. Like, and they both threw their final blows and both died. Like, it is
It does
actually
happen a lot, yeah.
yeah, it does happen a good bit. With their foe, which essentially is also what happens with.
It's kind of cool though.
We'll throw a wild card of wisdom there, which is actually kind of what happens again with Gandalf and the Balrog. Is they both throw their final blows, and it's actually very interesting.
Well, I mean,
It's
that's Tor died fighting a Balrog,
yeah, I mean,
and
that's,
then gets reinstated.
yeah,
Or not reinstated. but
yeah, that's what's fascinating. Actually, a lot of
You mean
heroes.
Glorfindel?
Huh?
You mean Glorfindel?
yeah, I did kind of mess that one up. All right,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That
but
happens.
but do you guys? I'm actually curious because that's a recurring theme. Do you think it's lazy in writing, or do you think it's good writing? Because it's so
when
repetitive.
you
in my
have
opinion.
such powerful beings fighting each other, like, and a lot of them, they don't like die on the spot. It's like they were
Mortal wounds.
Yeah.
and then they died like down the road. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Which would be historically accurate.
Yeah.
Because like back in the day, guys they'd fight wars and then infection would kill them weeks later.
I think
Untreated wounds, not good modern medicine.
it's just interesting how like many of these heroes actually don't get the victory, which isn't the purpose of being a hero. But you know what I'm saying, they don't really get that victory. It's like, well, they did it, but they don't get to actually like steep on
enjoy
it. And again, I think I said in the beginning, I'm like the first age and second age, but first age is like the content I need to see at this point because the warriors there,
See,
the battles, it is so good.
And we kind of talked about this after like the Warrior here. I'm opposite of you. I don't want to see it because I feel like they're going to ruin it because they are such like immaculate stories of these like great fighters. Like if they don't do them justice, it's going to be like the biggest letdown. And,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that's why the
Yeah.
Tolkien estate isn't giving the rights to them because there's so much that they can like screw up.
Yeah, after War of the Rohirrim, I'm kind of leaning more that way.
I
No
hate-
more
Like,
content.
well, finish Rings of Power. I enjoy the show for what it is, and I think they're signed for 5 years
Yeah.
or 5
At least
seasons.
5 seasons.
So it's like finish that. Okay, I'm okay with that. But after that, I think maybe leaning more to like let's
We
just
need-
wrap up the content
So-
because the books are great. It
There's
just
too
seems
much
like
money in it. It's
We
gonna keep
need to
going.
hone in a actual
that is
proper team who cares about the actual story, kind of like Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings. Even the students don't let him now. I'm saying they need to really have like a really honed in version that isn't made in Hollywood's direction, who distort the story. Now you do have to make it applicable to an audience,
the
but
thing is like that stuff's not going to happen.
I get that.
Which
But
means, so the more they do, the more they're just tarnishing it and ruining it.
all right, guys, I'm gonna buy the first age rights. We're gonna make a movie, and then everyone's gonna hate it anyway because it's not gonna be their vision. Because everyone has, just like us, everyone has their opinion, and no fan is ever gonna be satisfied with it when it comes out. Like completely satisfied.
yeah.
But the first stage content, like the Warriors, the men we're talking about, like that is where the best content is. Because in reality, even like Aragorn's feats, even though he's number one, the feats themselves aren't the greatest like battles or one-on-one combat.
They
like
pale
it
in
was.
comparison.
Yeah. Because for example, if Aragorn took on a Balrog, he'd probably die.
Definitely would die.
Yeah. So I was gonna say that's kind of it. Is he had a hard time with some trolls. So
And
imagine.
that's where three of my like top 5 are first age men.
I now feel like I need to move Aragorn down. Thinking about this.
Just because, and I also put a lot more.
Yeah, but there
weight
wasn't.
in
I
it.
mean, I understand your point, but the list wasn't necessarily who's the best warrior.
No,
Warrior is just a
so I'm
part you
saying
can
this
grade
is-
someone on.
I-
There's way
I
more
put
to being a great and powerful leader person than
You-
just how well can you swing your sword or axe.
Do you think, though, if we didn't have the connection with Aragorn from the movies, and because that's most content we're familiar with, do you think he'd be our number one?
I don't.
It definitely helps
Yeah.
having
The movie is like my
visualization.
draw.
Yeah, because it's so familiar, and,
But,
and
I mean-
you know the most.
So like with Aragorn, this is why I do have him 3. It's like he does like he brings back the connection of like the King of Gondor, the King of Unor.
I mean,
like, the leader of the Dunedain. Like,
Turin is like the biggest, probably the next biggest character we have in all of Tolkien's writings.
With,
as far as
with
like
storyline,
story
yeah.
and arc and
Beren
depth.
and Turin have the most probably writings of, I'd say, men outside of it. Hurin has a good bit too. I think Hurin though sounds like he would have been like the best warrior. Just
Well,
out.
Tolkien himself said when Hurin died, he was the mightiest of like mortal men,
Yeah.
warriors. So like, yeah, Hurin was just a hoss.
yeah.
Turin's dragon helmet was pretty sick though,
yeah.
Yeah.
and like a lot of the artwork that's representative. Who was your 5?
Well, now it's changed. I'll be honest. I have.
Well, who was it?
I mean, Éomer was on
that's
here, but to be
right.
honest with you, it's not even so much like I think he's like
Éomer
done the
was a good
greatest-
warrior.
great warrior, but it's more so he took the reins in a time that they needed to, when essentially Rohan was really in a decline on, I'd say, brink of destruction of its own doing. So I think that him kind of filling that void and taking that on, and essentially he's the reason why him and Gandalf is why the Battle of Helm's Deep ended how it did. If he wasn't such a pivotal role, like that war would have been lost and nothing would have happened from there.
So
I'm assuming you're referencing them coming in on the 5th day.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so that's where I hate how much Peter Jackson changed Helm's
Yeah.
Deep, because like, and that again, kind of like I said earlier, as a great warrior, him and Aragorn fought hand in hand like the whole battle
You
at
were
Helm's
right,
Deep,
yeah.
which is just a sick image in your head. Just the two of them out on the causeway, just like raining havoc.
Yeah.
And like that's where, and then he went and changed the whole
That is-
Helm story.
That
Kinda,
is fair when you're trying to deviate between movie and writings.
yeah, I was going off the books for these just because
That's
the IP, that's the source material.
You kind of have to for anyone outside of the Third Age. I mean, you have to go off of written material. So
well, most of the Third Age material is like just Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
yeah. Well, that's really
Like,
no. It is.
obviously, they have other stuff that kind of connects it all in the Silmarillion and the Untold Stories, but
I'm telling you, First Age stuff is the best content. Actually, like Lord of the Rings story is a good, relatable story of good and evil that is easy to read. But First Age battles, content, characters are, in my opinion, more
Yeah,
compelling.
everything's just deeper.
It's
Yeah.
deeper. It's cooler. There's more.
So, do you want to go through any of your guys' honorable mentions?
so I threw Bard in as my honorable mentions.
Really?
Whoa.
Wait.
Yeah, and see, and this is where I said,
Why?
I favoritize Mogus. I mean, he killed Smaug.
Cool. So one day he got lucky.
Like I said, my list-
He ate his Wheaties that morning, prayed to the right god, and then threw a black arrow.
yeah, but that's what I said. My ranking was based off of like
Feats.
cool moment. Yeah, like to he was one of 2 men to kill a dragon. And that's why, and also that's why Thorin was above him in my honorable mentions, is because they're the 2 men who slayed dragons.
I think
And
that's
I
fair.
don't count half elf who chose to be man.
But that's
So like his was
and that's for like on this list, by the way, just for anyone watching, like the half man, half elf thing is not on this list really. Currently,
so like Elros is one of my honorable mentions.
Yep, I have him on it.
Because he was half elf. Now
Yeah.
he did regard himself as a man.
Yes.
But they also pick up an unfair advantage over men.
Right.
by
So that is
saying,
like I think that's why I left him off
Yeah,
my list.
he is on me as an honorable mention. So
I had Helm on there just for his strength. I had
his story is
Beorn.
pretty sweet.
yeah,
I was thinking about Beorn, but he's like a changeling. He's a man, but so I kept him off just because I'm like he's not a purebred. He's a mudblood. And then I did have Baron on mine. I can see why you'd put Baron on there. We have a lot of writing and literature about Baron, but at the end of the day,
It's also hard not to put Tolkien himself on the list.
Well, I mean,
wow.
but I was like, I don't know if I'd say that Baron can top I don't think Baron can top the 5 that are on my list.
Not warrior wise. I think that obviously no matter what, that's the most compelling love story in all of Tolkien's writings. It's about himself and his wife. Literally, because they both went and fought Morgoth. I actually think Colton, you're probably the best one to explain the story. I think you're most familiar. Helm Hammerhand, I do think deserves a little bit of a shout out. I don't know if you want to talk on that a little bit.
Like he deserves a movie.
Well, no, the thing is, like, if
He didn't get one.
See
He
the review,
movie, yeah.
anyone who didn't see the review or the movie, I do think that's actually one of the better stories of man.
Yes and no, because a lot of like the story of Helm is like folklore from like the campments he was like destroying.
Yeah.
So like
It's kind of like essentially like Johnny Appleseed.
yeah, like the things he did was cool. He also got completely overran and had to flee to the Hornburg to kind of like whatever, and then they were under siege, and he was just like sneaking out now by himself, let alone, but sneaking out and like trying to destroy these camps in the middle of the night. And then they picked up the lore of nothing can kill him, and he's fighting this all with his bare hand. Like a lot of it kind of was more like folklore of like the people who were like escaping the encampments than the act. Like there's no like physical proof that he was actually like doing these things. So that's why.
Well, I thought he was killing people, like, in the camps. It might be not barehanded, but he was killing
was.
people in them, which I still think, like, going out there, killing people in their camps, like, single-handedly, not with, I'm not going to say with no weapons, but I think that is still, like, goes to show. It's, first off, actually, a very interesting strategy. Because I think one thing in Lord of the Rings is strategy.
I don't think his was so much strategy as just like there was nothing left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was anger.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I'm saying it did fuel like the folklore of him, and he was achieving like killing people in these encampments, create this lore, which means it was an effective.
But the thing is, like, so that didn't like him doing that didn't change anything. It was still his nephew's the one who came in and actually like took back Rohan.
But still badass.
Yeah, it's badass, but like, it didn't conquer anything. He didn't.
That's why he gets an honorable mention.
Yeah, I mean that's why I don't have him on my list because it's not he. Like the story's cool, the lore behind it is cool, but like it didn't do anything.
Yeah, fair.
But the story is cool.
It is a cool story. I mean, I like him. I think, and the fact that he killed someone with one punch. Come on, cool.
I mean, the guy was old at that point. He pretty much gave him a heart attack.
Oh Lord.
Going back to Turin, I think one of the reasons I had him rated so high was also because of like his brains. So like in killing Glaurung, it wasn't like in the most warrior-like fashion. He's kind of hidden beneath a little crevice and then shoves his sword up through him. But he had enough forethought to think like, looking at a map, where would they likely cross, and like setting up in that position. So like, I valued his brains there. Right, the strategic things.
But how many brains did he have? He killed his friend because he thought he was an orc approaching.
Well, that's the curse, man. It's the curse.
Sorry, my bad. The curse.
Blind.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And then he's just like his dad. Both of them, they're so awesome that they just have to kill themselves.
That's so kind of like the
Suicide
samurai.
is cool.
Yeah, like Huron just throws himself into the ocean, and Turin throws himself onto his own sword.
Yeah. It's like mine as well. No one else is going to take me out. It actually, that's actually an interesting thing. When you're that big of a badass, the hell if you give anyone else the satisfaction of taking you out. Where you're like, I'm the only one who is capable of killing me.
I'm also pretty sure Turin was like 35.
Yeah, he was
So, like,
he was young still.
At least Huron, his kids and everything died, and he was tortured for like 20 years. And I mean, so he's kind of had a lot of. Not saying that Turin didn't have a lot of things like bad happen to him or whatnot, but like.
Didn't they try and hide Turin in secret in?
He spent time in Gondolin, yeah.
Yeah, Gondolin though, like to try and protect him, and well, essentially, like, lo and behold, that's.
Yeah, a lot of the first age elven man relationships are cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of, I know we want to keep on track on that, but isn't it very interesting that Elrond seemed to have a problem with man being half man and coming from half men?
I don't think he had a problem with half men. I think he was sad seeing his daughter choose a mortal life.
Yeah.
Was more so what that was, but
What was that? But no, I mean, I think no matter what, though, I mean, there's definitely just such cool content in regards to the men of Middle Earth and women. When we say man, we're talking about the race of man. Well, there's not many women in the stories anyway.
The shield
but...
maidens, guys. The shield maidens.
Oh God.
Name one.
That shield maiden was completely made up?
Okay.
That...
Yeah.
You brought it up. So you could have put based on feats, like Colton was saying, you could put Eowyn on there. But
Why would you?
she had a little help.
Yeah.
She had help from a hobbit.
Really, if it wasn't for the borrowed blade, she would not have been able to kill the Witch King.
Right.
So like
True.
she gets credit for the kill, but it was heavily assisted by
I
the curse
know,
being broken.
man.
Yeah.
You know, had it not been broken right before she stabbed the sword, I mean,
Yeah.
completely different. I mean, she could have stabbed. If it wasn't for Mary, she would have stabbed nothing and then just got demolished.
Women are cool, though. I just want to...
Yeah, they
Yeah.
Women are pretty sick.
I actually think Luthien is probably one of the best women.
Spoiler: she
Elf.
is on my elf list.
Oh, fancy that. Well, I guess that'll lead into the next pod.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was fun conversation, kind of ranking. But you're going to have to check in next time to see our ranking on the elves.
Yep, absolutely. See you next time.